Welcome back to Eating Elephants. We're here with Bobby J. What's up, Bobby?
What's good, man? How you feeling, bro?
Hey, I am feeling all right. How you doing?
I'm living, man. Trying to live the dream, man.
Live a dream.
Yes,
you know, if y'all didn't know, Bobby J is a legend in the comedy game nationwide. He came by just to kind of talk to us, just not only about his journey, about some of the things that some of our normal guests talk about. So, Bobby, where to start for you, man?
Where to start? Just life in general or the entertainment business?
Just period. I mean, I think as entertainers, we all have that thing that makes us say, hey, I want to be in the spotlight. I want to tell some jokes. I'm funny, right?
Yeah. Man, I'm going to just say probably elementary school, man. The biggest thing with me, I was always a prankster. I used to always pull pranks on people. I didn't know what stand-up comedy was, or I just knew being funny, being obnoxious, So it was kind of a situation where, like, in the classroom, I'm putting super glue on the door or something like that, just trying to make people laugh. When I get finished with my classwork, my objective was to make you laugh, or disturb people or whatever, trying to make chocolate milk fly out somebody's nose. That was my thing. So, but then as I got older, and then started to understand what comedy was my first time was probably when people started doing like Yo Mama jokes and stuff like that. So, that was like the golden moment for me. 7th grade, man. I remember the Yo Mama jokes because they used to have this show called Uptown Comedy Club. It used to come on TV, and they used to snap on each other. And then they came out with a book called Snaps. I think it was like Ed Lover and somebody else put it together. So it was all these Yo Mama jokes. And I'm reading the book. I would go to the mall and read the book at the toy store and memorize the jokes. And then when I come to school, I'm firing them off, boom, boom, boom. And, at that time when you're younger, you're not thinking of originality. You're not thinking of nothing like that. You're just thinking about being funny. You don't know how it works. And then you get to, talent shows and things like that in school. And I'm like, shoot, I'm about to, tell some jokes, man. And at a young age, that's what I was doing. So it just felt natural. It just felt like I had to do that,
Right. And I know, as we talked off camera, I'm a huge fan of comedy. I'm a huge fan of, origin stories of people. Yeah. I always hear, just like that old tattoo with the comedian, right? You got the happy face and you got the sad face. Yeah. Was that like a part of your upbringing? Was there like trauma that made you say, hey, man, I'm going to start telling the jokes to kind of get away from my own reality? Or were you more of a happy person who wanted to share your happiness with other people?
I would say I was always happy. I was always an upbeat, positive kid. I didn't have any traumas or anything really growing up. Now I lived in the hood, but when you in the hood, you don't know you in the hood. You just know everybody else is with you. You don't know certain different areas. You don't know that you're in the hood and then there's the suburbs and more affluent areas. You just know this is the people around me I see every day. So we're all here. So you just know one level. And then you had all those personalities around you and that you gravitated towards. So for me, I would say with my personality being like bubbly and funny all the time and trying to make people laugh and never being afraid to, like if it's a group of girls, I'm trying to break dance. I just loved attention, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was about attention to me, but it was being funny. So I could have been that bad kid that was needing attention, but I think it all stems from the attention part of it. You hear people laugh, you're like, oh yeah, I did my thing today in class, successful day, So that's what it was. That's what it was.
And not imagine just the continued on, because we talk about, just like you said, the story of your origin story of growing up in the hood. So where did you grow up? I know you're from Kansas City, but where in Kansas City are you from?
So I was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. I'm a Bethany baby, so the old school Bethany Hospital. I lived in the 20s, man. I was in Delavan over off 26th Street by Clam Park. I don't know if you know where those places are at, but I was all through Quindaro. That was my hood, 26th, 27th Street. That's where I lived at. And then I would be on the Missouri side because most of my family was over there. So my mom was on the Kansas side. And then my grandmother, uncles, and pops and everybody, they was on the Missouri side. So I was back and forth. So I did some schooling in Kansas, middle school, a little bit of high school, Washington High School. But then in Missouri, I graduated from Westport High School. So I would say I was about 80-20 Missouri, Kansas.
Westport School of Arts, right?
Yeah, communication. It was a communication.
Communication,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
And so what was your first experience as far as stand-up? When did you get that first shot to see, like, man, am I funny? Is this something I can transition to?
I would say probably like eighth grade, like talent shows, summer camp. They had talent shows. And you know what? It wasn't even stand-up. It was just me getting up on stage imitating people. So I would imitate the camp counselors, or I imitate the teachers or something like, the lunch lady, she be up in the, you go through her line. And I didn't know. I remember seeing Sinbad. So to make it all come together, Sinbad was the very first stand-up comedian I saw. He was a clean comedian. I thought he was hilarious. I remember watching him, and I was in tears watching this dude. So, because he talked about his mama and the McDonald's at home and all this stuff. Like, we got McDonald's at home. And then he talked about making a sandwich. I thought that was the funniest stuff ever. So I thought that's how you did comedy. You just talk about situations. Well, you do. That's what comedy is about, situations. But with me first getting on stage and doing talent shows, I just knew to talk about people that I thought were funny or had some, hilarious personalities, and then I would get up there and imitate them, like the security guard in the hall, when it's a hall freeze, and I'd make fun of them and do the walk and all that stuff. So it was just that. And then as I got older and started to figure out, what stand-up comedy is and how to format your jokes and how to become a comedian, then it became real for me.
Right. I know that's the funny thing about anything. Mm-hmm. Once you get conscious about what you're doing, mm-hmm. sometimes the fun goes out the door, right? And it's more about the creativity. Yeah. Or it's hard to balance those two things. So what was your first shot, man? What was your big break when you said, hey, man, comedy's mm-hmm. working for me. Mm-hmm. This thing has happened.
Mm-hmm. So in the beginning for me, first shot was when I was on campus at college. And the reason why I say this is really my first shot, because I went to Lincoln University. So Joe Torre, he played in Poetic Justice and stuff like that. He was alumni from Lincoln University. So it was a talent show week, and somebody just signed my name up. And I was, that was my first time doing like a big crowd. It was like 700 students at the auditorium. So somebody signed me up. I was like, getting word, hey man, you doing a talent show? I'm like, I guess so. It was like a comedy competition. That's what it was. And I'm like, all right, they said you can win $250. So I'm like, let's do it. So I actually officially wrote jokes. Like I wrote like 4 jokes. It was 2 other guys that did the show with me. And then I went out there, got a standing ovation, killed it. And the reason, again, I say this is like my break, because Joe Torre was there. He was there. He was like, man, you funny, but you think you good? Come hang out with the big boys. Come hang out with the real comedians. So that Friday they had the comedy show. So it was Joe Torre. It was a guy named Arvin Mitchell, Steve Brown, and I can't remember the other guy's name. But I went, did it. Front of the school again, and they was like, all right, cool, everybody loved it. He said, this is what I'm gonna do, man. I got some contacts for you. You can go down to St. Louis. It's this club, this is I'm gonna refer you. Just call them, tell them you're on your way. So the following week, it was a Wednesday, I'm like, all right, here I come. So I went to the club, man, and I'm seeing like OG veterans from like Def Comedy Jam there performing. And they gave me some time. And I went up and I'm like, all right. And at the time I didn't cuss. I didn't do anything. So I was more of a clean comic. But mind you, I'm in the 30 and up club and I'm 21 years old. So it was like the crowd was feeling it. It was funny, but it wasn't like I didn't read the room. I didn't see that this dude just got off stage and he cussing and MFing and all that. And I was like, oh, I got to step my game up. I got to become a little bit more edgy with my comedy. That's what I had to do. So that birthed me being more of a raw comedian and just being more physical and just having fun, man. And from there, I started to get opportunities to write for comedians. So like Ricky Smiley, Sommore, stuff like that. So Ricky Smiley took me on tour. I was working with Kevin Hart in the early days. And then I got the opportunity, Sommore gave me the opportunity in 2014 to come on Comic View. And then from there, it was just like everything just took off, man.
You know, and I definitely remember that with the Comic View situation. Mm-hmm. So I think with a lot of artists, integrity becomes a portion for you, right? It becomes, you ever got any calls from the family members like, hey, man, I heard that joke that you said, grandma not proud. The thing, because we were talking about, even 2014, that's 10 years ago. Yeah. And now we live in the age of, we talking about slut rap, right? I don't know if you heard of the slut rap. Yeah. And I think some of the stuff that comedians and entertainers are willing to say now, even 10 years ago, wasn't on the radar.
No, man, no. Yeah, so, man, look, the way things are now compared to then, you would think, I mean, we're more of a sensitive era, so I'm trying to see how we are juggling this, like you said, the slut rap, and then everybody's hypersensitive and everything's offensive now, but it makes that seem like a cleaner era. It's the weirdest dynamic, because we were more raw then, but now, and then we were more free. We were more free to say certain things. So yeah, I would get, family members, my mom, she'd come to my shows and I'd be like, in my head, I'd be prepared to say something about my family. The whole ride there, they don't even know it. I'm like, yeah, I'm about to get you. You don't even remember when we were 6 years old and you did this. And so when I do the shows, I'd be like, yeah, my cousin right there, this fool, put some pee in a water gun. And I remember, I was just, doing stuff like that. And they'll be like, oh man, I thought you forgot about that. Like, nah, I ain't forgot, know. So that's just how, I'm not afraid to put my family in my stuff. And actually I had a family member approach me, and this was the funniest. Well, it wasn't the funniest thing, but it was like, wow, they caught on to it. So I do a joke about black people. I don't do it anymore, but it's one of my old jokes. It was how black people, we talk all this stuff about white people, but we the only people that have a 3-year-old uncle, because grandma won't stop having sex, you know what I'm saying? Then I say, it's an auntie and uncle, auntie and niece in here, they the same age. And then I talk about growing up with a 3-year-old uncle and I'm 17 or whatever. And the relative came up to me and was like, man, this was probably like 3 months ago. And I ain't said this joke in years, man. And she was like, I know you was talking about me in this joke right here, And I was like, I said, wow, you really caught on to that. And I've been doing it for years. And she has always been in my mind because she's the same age as her niece, auntie and niece, same age. So, yeah, man. So. Yeah, it's a tough thing to juggle, but they know I'm like that, so I get a free pass on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a bigger one, just like politics, right?
Yeah,
going into politics, like we got, and I think that's really one of the biggest jobs. I feel like that a lot of comedians don't feel anymore is informing us of what's going on, and letting us know in a light way that these things are going on, like Trump, right? He got indicted 4 times. You seen that?
Yeah, I did, man. This dude got Rico, man. Like this dude. I mean, it's crazy because first he's the president, bro. We're not thinking of the magnitude. Who was like they said was the worst president, like Jimmy Carter, something like that.
Jimmy Carter, maybe Nixon or Bush. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm assuming Reagan.
Yeah. But before that, the one he had got impeached.
We're gonna say Reagan, right? Because Reagan was impeached as well, right, and shot.
It was before him.
Nixon.
It was he left office early from my understanding, but we don't realize we're living through this. We just went through COVID. Now we're going through this, and you got a president that's been indicted, and then he got all them charges, man. Like, bro, this dude is going down, man. And
I told my wife that. She don't believe it. You know, I was telling her, her and Young Thug got the same prosecutor. The same person prosecuting Young Thug for his RICO case is prosecuting Donald Trump. Man, it's the world is comedy, so to speak. Yeah. So we were talking, and we were talking about, kind of getting that first break with Joe Torre, and that makes sense to me. Like, I know all of us people who live in small towns in the Midwest wonder why we see certain people come to town all the time, but that's cool, man. I didn't know Joe Torre is actually somebody who's been, this is stomping grounds, actually, if you went to LU.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 100% shout out to Joe Torre. Yeah. So from there, everybody likes to talk about the Hollywood scene and wanting to do Hollywood. What made you stay home? Because I know you still, we're in Kansas City now. You drove here. What made you not, leave? Or made you not leave Kansas City and maybe go to Atlanta or LA or some of these places that are more for someone of your talent? You could roll out of the couch and be with the rest of the elite comics.
You know what? Because we're in the middle of the country. We're smack dab in the middle. It's 3-hour flight to New York, 3-hour flight to LA. So I don't necessarily have to be there. And I learned early. So 2011, 2012, I started to really pop off on social media, Twitter, things like that. Like early on, like people didn't realize having 30, 40,000 followers in 2010, 2011, 2012 was like a big thing, and people were like, whoa. I remember like he has they bring me on stage, like announce me like he has 30,000 followers on this. And it was like a big, now it's nothing, you know what I'm saying? But it was like, I started off there. So what happened is clubs and colleges and people who were promoters were calling me, hey, can you come do my comedy show or whatever? And I started popping off of actually Twitter before really anything else. So I'm seeing other countries and I'm seeing other places. Like I would look at my analytics, and my biggest fan base was in South Africa, then Atlanta, then Bermuda. Crazy. So, and this is 2012, 2011. This is before TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff. And I'm on Twitter firing off jokes, boom, boom, boom. And then all the other comedians is like, who's this dude? And then they started to put a face with a name, like, oh man, this dude is a cold writer. So I was getting writing gigs and things like that. So for me, I was already doing it. I didn't, like, now you don't really have to be in LA to make it. It's almost better to stay at home and then just, you can get more reach on social media. So I learned early, and then I was like, everybody's like, oh man, you need to come to LA. You need to come to Atlanta. And I'd be like, I'm there 3 times a year, 4 times a year. I'm networking. I'm getting good big meetings and stuff with networks and things like that. I'm working, but I didn't have to be there. So this was early on because it helped me to learn, okay, just take that quick flight instead of moving and struggling in these high, expensive places, and then maybe make it, maybe not. So I can come home. My mortgage at the time when 2012 was probably like $1,000. Yeah. Rent in LA, probably $2,500 in a studio apartment, so I didn't have to make that, I didn't have to sacrifice so I could go and do these shows and make $4,000 or $5,000 and then come home. And that was more money here than in LA or New York.
100%, man. I lived in New York for 8 weeks. For 8 weeks.
What happened, straight, man?
Well, I was working a gig, and, as a sales professional, I was working with some other sales professionals, helping train up for a pest control company. And I lived in White Plains. And, I complained because they charged me, I want to say it was $200 a week to stay in this place. And when I got there, I had a roommate, and it was like 1,200 square feet.
Wow.
And I'm like, bro, I'm paying all of the rent. They're like, Mr. Copeland, this place is $7,000 a month. I'm like, oh, thank y'all. Thank you kindly.
Wow.
Yeah, so for, staying out in those places is it.
Yeah.
In the internet, right? I think is huge. You think about people like, rest in peace, Bernie Mac, if he would have had the internet, right? Yeah. I did a bunch of views off just posting an old joke of his, and it's huge for that. One thing I always ask people, especially in entertainment, because I feel like the dueling energies of good and bad are always there, whether your perception tells you or not. What do you do to keep yourself mentally in the game, spiritually in the game, that keeps you, not only ready to perform at your highest level, but, willing to keep putting yourself out there, keep telling the jokes, keep talking about your life?
For some reason, it just doesn't go off. It literally, so if you see me on stage, my energy is a lot higher. I'm different. It's like I'm a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing. So when people see me, they be like, yo, dude, you chill dude, but you just roasted me at the show, man. But it cuts on when I get on stage and it cuts off. But the creative nature, it never stops. So you're talking about I'm writing all the time, because I'll see some things and then I'll be like, it'll start to come together. And then my brain just does it like a Rubik's Cube. And it's like, all right, I need to write these jokes. And then I'll go, oh man, this joke would be good for such and such. Let me shoot this to him. Hey, what you think? So getting feedback from peers and just having those, because it's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with just being a comedian, but and when you're a writer as well. So you're always in contact with other entertainers, and you're saying, "Hey, man, you think this will work?" Kind of like a producer with beats. Hey, man, I was just on the phone with Future. Now I'm on the phone with Drake. It's a lot that goes on.
Or a battle rapper. I've been a battle rapper for many years. You want to let people hear your material, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
For sure.
So when you're not on stage, like when comedians are doing their sets, it's a constant build. It's a constant build in these components to where you wanted to get to this pristine set one day so you can record it and film it. And it's a lot of building, a lot of breaking down. So you're always thinking, and you're, they always say, you're only as good as your last whatever, your show or, hit or whatever. So you always thinking about your last show. How could I do that better? You always listening. You listen to your whole set and say, oh, I could have did that better. And it just becomes this thing that you constantly work at. So for me, even if I'm not on stage, I feel like I'm on stage because I'm always doing something,
Yeah, I think that shoes being locked into your destiny,
Yeah, man.
Living your destiny, walking in your truth every day.
Absolutely.
That's huge. So what are some of your favorite young comedians out there?
DC Young Fly.
Easy. Yeah. That was in my mind. I think I don't want to hate on brother DC, but in my mind, I knew I'm like, DC really is the funniest dude out there, probably.
He's naturally funny. So the thing with DC, when I know DC's coming in the room, you got to get ready because his energy. Like if I could take 5% of DC's personality and drop it into my everyday personality, I'd be even funnier because he's funny, and then he gets on stage and he's funny and silly and goofy. He's all that all the time. Really cool dude. But soon as you walk up, he roasting you. And you're like, come on, man. Then you got to talk about his little legs and stuff like that. But I've seen his growth. I remember working with him for the first time. He was blowing up on like the Vine and then on Instagram, and he's just roasting people. And then he started to blow up. So then when he came to Kansas City, I was like, the club put me on with him. No, his manager, she put me on with him. And I was like, man, I wonder how this is going to work because he's an internet guy, but he came out, he was a surprise to everybody. It was funny, but it's a lot of growth. 2 years passed, and then got another call. Hey, you work with DC. All right, cool. This dude came out, he had been working. The difference between him and a lot of internet personalities, yes, you use your internet fame. You use that to get people in the seats. But sometimes that's where it ends at because you get comedians or internet comics that'll get up there and they're like, I'm gonna just do my skits, and they'll come out in a dress and a bonnet and trying to be some old lady or whatever character they are, and it doesn't resonate on the live stage. So DC had been in the clubs and open mics working, and I saw that growth, and then I was like, wow. And then I remember he came back on stage at the end of the show, and I was like, bro, I really see the growth, and I love that you're putting in work, not just going from the internet to the stage. You're really going to these open mics and you're sharpening your craft. So he's one of my favorites. Not too many, man, other than, in terms of young ones, because I don't really pay attention to that landscape really. But he's a cool brother. But the whole 85 South family. The only reason I didn't add Carlos to the list, because he's like a brother side by side with me. I came up early with Carlos. He used to run this room in Atlanta. I think it's Katt's Cafe. I think it was, but I would come there and pop up on him years ago, and that's my dude. So
it's huge. And I think one big thing too. It's easier to become a comedian now with the internet, with those things like the skits. Also with like the Hollywood strike, right? Right now, Hollywood is on strike. And I think that presents a big opportunity for comedians and people who can do smaller scale skits. I mean, it's a lot of people who I watch online who just green screen themselves in front of other people's videos. And there I am for an hour laughing. So hopefully they make it more profitable.
This is the second coming of like the pandemic in a sense, because we've become so dependent on entertainment at our disposal. When we were growing up, we had to get home and get to the TV and hopefully can catch Family Matters or, whatever show was on at the time. We were confined to that way of doing things and actually getting entertained. But now people want to sit on TikTok, and people are losing sleep because they up at 2 a.m. and got to be up for work at 5, and they just scrolling TikTok and the reels on Instagram and stuff. And we have so much information coming to us, and then the writers' strike and the Screen Actors Guild strike happened, and then there's going to be this void in the entertainment realm when it comes to movies and TV. So you're right. When social media and these influencers and those people, they're going to get an opportunity to step in those shoes and fill that void. So when there's no new shows on TV, because there's still no agreement, right now it's August. They're talking about maybe in the spring of next year before we actually figure out what the agreement is. So yeah, man, it's going to be a void, and people should take advantage of it, especially if you're a comedian or a comedic personality or just a whatever, like doing podcasts, whatever. Like for me, I've shot a whole movie. And we're doing a premiere here in a month, and I'm not confined to the rules of the Screen Actors Guild or anything. I'm an independent person, So
I seen you had the strap in the movie. Tell him what's going on with Bobby J with the. So what's this movie about? You a cop in the movie? What you got going?
No, man. So I to be honest, I wrote the movie in 2014. I wrote the idea in 2014, and what I was noticing is I would watch the news, right, and I was like, they'll talk about a guy that was wrongfully accused of a crime, spent 25, 30, 40 years. We hear about it all the time. And in my head, you kind of sit there and you watching TV. I'm like, man, if that was me, I'm jacking everybody up. I get out and be like, yep. You know what I'm saying? So I wrote the idea, and then I started to see it happen again. News will happen. It'll be a new guy. He served 20, 30 years. But one thing that was a common occurrence, they were all black men. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this film. So I wrote the whole script, and I play a character who is wrongfully accused of a crime. He knows what happened. He ends up spending 10 years in prison, when he goes to prison, his daughter is born, like, all he has is her ultrasound when he goes in. So she's born after he is in prison. So all she knows him as is this guy in jail. And then after 4 or 5 years, the mom moves on. So just naturally, the daughter moves on with the mom too. And his goal when he gets out, I'm going to figure life out. I'm going to get me a job. I'm going to build my bond with my daughter and just start my life over. But when he gets out, he's a felon. Can't get no job. Daughter, she don't want nothing to do with you. Life is lifing at this point. So he spirals. And the rest is, you had to see it when you...
What's the name of it?
Vengeful.
Vengeful, straight up. So I'm sure she will catch you on all. We're going to be on Tubi? What we going to be on, man?
Nah, man, I'm avoiding Tubi. No knock to Tubi. Tubi be tripping, man. Them movies on Tubi, bro.
Oh, my God.
Bro, I've been in like 4 Tubi movies, and I ain't even know it. I'm just at the gas station pumping gas, and I'm like, that's me in that scene right there, man. You walking in the store, they just shooting, man. You got to... But Tubi, no knock to Tubi. It's always... It's always a room for people to create in their own space for a group of people that's left out. So Black ghetto people, that's what you associate with Tubi. The quality of everything, the money we spent is definitely not Tubi, Yeah. So the way it's the plot, the cast, the way the flow of the movie, everything is professional. Nothing, we didn't miss a beat on this one. So this will be a film that when people see it, it's not going to say, oh, that's a Black movie. It's going to say it's a movie,
And that's dope, man. Congratulations and much success. Anything else you're working on that, do you want to let us know about while we're here?
No, man. I'm still popping up on shows and, doing some touring. I'll be in Mississippi coming up next month as well. But really just writing, man. Just writing. It's like, anybody that's in any craft you're in, whatever you do, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. If you're doing music, keep singing. If you're playing the piano, it don't stop when you're not at the venue or you're in the studio. You keep doing it. And that's for me, you're gonna stumble upon a hit eventually. So yeah, I just just writing, man.
Huge. Yeah. Well, this is Copeland Keys. Here with Bobby J, the comedian, signing off for Eating Elephants. And
yes, sir.
Peace.
Peace.
Say, I know the storm come. Mom, I know the storm come. I said, I know the storm. Hey, I know the storm coming cause the bullet won't start to ache. Told my mama keep her dry on all them rainy days. When my niggas died, had to slide, but it still ain't take the pain away. All them tears that I cried when they died, but it still ain't take the pain away.
What? Talking about, why you call it eating elephants?
I call it eating elephants because how you take on a big task, you got to take it one bite at a time. That's how you eat an elephant.
Say, I know the storm come. Mom, I know the storm come.